Hello, friends. Welcome back to the West region. Yesterday, we learned all about the land and the water and the climate of the West. We learned that there is mountain ranges like the Rocky Mountains, the Cascade Mountains. We learned that there's valleys. We talked about the Great Basin, which has the Mojave Desert in it and the Great Basin Desert. We learned about Salt Lake, which is so salty, only little teeny brine fish grow. We learned that there's also a rainforest that goes from California up to Alaska with very, very tall trees. And we talked a little bit about that there is the Pacific Ocean there, that Alaska, which is not connected, is tundra and cold, but Hawaii is islands that are made up from volcanoes. We also discussed that the weather is different depending on where you are. You can have rainy, cloudy, foggy days, to snow, to sunny beach days, to desert hot days. So it's different in all the different parts of the West. Today we're going to talk about what kinds of products and natural resources do we get from that West region. Before we get started, let's go ahead and look at our true-false statements that we are going to answer after we are done today. Our first statement is, the most important natural resource in the West is the Pacific Ocean. Is that the most important? Part of the West region is known as America's fruit and salad bowl. The Trans-Pacific Pipeline carries oil from Hawaii to oil refineries in California, and aircraft are built and tested in the West region. So we're going to talk about the natural resources. What is the West region known as? The Trans-Pacific Pipeline and aircraft are going to be some of our focus. Make sure you have your reading open and ready and a pencil or highlighter to note important facts. Products and natural resources. The most important natural resource in the West is the Pacific Ocean. There's your answer. Fishing is an important industry up and down the coast. There are many ports along the Pacific Ocean. A port is a place for receiving ships and transferring cargo. Here, goods are traded with Japan and Asia. And on the right is a picture of ships coming in and out of the port, taking cargo or goods and services to other countries and bringing their goods and services back. The Columbia River is very important to the West region. Dams on the river help make a lot of electricity. Many businesses use this electric power. Farmers use water from the river to irrigate crops. That means to give their crops water. Columbia River waters irrigate more than 8 million acres of land. Both farmers and business people use the river for transportation. So they travel on the river in order to get from place to place. Many goods travel on the Columbia to ports along the Pacific Ocean. So the Columbia River helps these ocean liners be able to get to the ports easy. Soil is another important resource. In the Central Valley and the Willamette Valley, there are many fruits and vegetable farms. And here is a picture of a tomato farm over here. The Central Valley is called America's Fruit and Salad Bowl. There you go, because more than 150 fruits and vegetables grow there. That's a lot of fruits and vegetables. 150? That's why it's called America's Fruit and Salad Bowl. Underline that. Crops grown in this area include apricots, almonds, strawberries, cabbage, lettuce, tomatoes, grapes, avocados, asparagus, oranges, cotton, and corn. Potatoes, green beans, onions, and broccoli are also grown in the valley. Whew. Washington is also known for its apples. Washington produces more apples than any other state. That's where we get most of our apples from. Central Valley supplies a lot of the food for the United States and for the rest of the world. So that is why that valley is so important to the United States. We get many of our fruits and vegetables from the Central Valley region. The West region is also the center of the wood products industry. Remember, we talked about all those rainforests. Wood products include lumber, plywood, cardboard, and paper. Much of the wood used in the United States comes from the West. Wood is used to build houses, furniture, musical instruments, and much, much more. Idaho, which we've talked about before, Idaho is home to vast potato farms, and the Idaho potato is sold by almost every supermarket in the United States. The next time you head to the supermarket, look at the potatoes. They're most likely from Idaho. About 3/4 of the Idaho's potato crop is now processed and sold as French fries, instant mashed potatoes, or similar products. The rest are sold as baking potatoes. You can even look on your frozen French fry bag and see, did the potatoes in these fries come from Idaho? They most likely did. Hawaii is famous for its pineapples. You can also find sugarcane in Hawaii, and that's what this is a picture of, sugarcane. This plant grows on plantations. Plantations are big lands that specifically grows one type of crop. Once it's harvested, it is sent to sugar mills. This is where table sugar we use comes from. Bananas, rice, coffee, and macadamia nuts are also grown in Hawaii. And then we have salt. Salt is one of the most important things that people get from the Great Salt Lake. In fact, over 4 million pounds of salt gets taken from it every year. They get the salt by pumping water into giant shallow ponds. When the water evaporates, the salt is left behind. It can take up to 3 years for all of the water in the pond to evaporate. And evaporate is when the water gets so warm that it turns into air and rises. Another valuable resource in the West region is oil. Oil was discovered in Alaska in the 1960s in the North Slope. The North Slope is near the Arctic Ocean, so it's really, really far north. The oil was found in Prudhoe Bay. Once it was found, it needed to be transported to other areas. Remember, we've talked about how oil is used for gas in our cars and for medicine and soaps and some other things. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline, underline, was built to carry the oil from the North Slope. So way up there, because some people can't get there, and neither can trucks. The oil from the North Slope, it travels to Prince William Sound in Velasquez, Alaska. There, the oil is pumped into super tankers or tanker trucks. These super tankers carry the oil to other parts of the US and the world. And on the right here is a picture of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. So through this whole long pipeline is where the oil is traveling down to get to the tankers. One stop the oil goes to is in San Francisco, California. San Francisco has oil refineries. Refineries prepare the oil so it can be used in homes and businesses. And remember, we talked about when the oil comes out of the ground, it's called crude oil, and it's not very useful. It has to go to those big refineries, which are almost like cities and towns, to be changed into oil we can use. The Rocky Mountains, remember those run from Canada all the way to New Mexico, are a source of many minerals. Deposits of copper, gold, and silver have been found within the mountains. Gold was found in California in 1848. During the gold rush, when people were moving west in search of riches, a small town in Colorado called Leadville was a popular mining spot for gold. The miners found some gold, but it was hard to separate the gold from the local sand. The miners found that the heavy brown sand they were digging in was actually full of silver and lead. So first they went for the gold rush, and then instead of a gold rush, there was a silver boom because they realized there was silver there too. More and more people moved to the area in search of silver. Leadville became one of the world's largest silver camps. Soon the silver boom ended, but Leadville was lucky. Other valuable minerals were found in this area. One is molybdenum. Molybdenum is used in the production of high-strength steel. So lots of different minerals like copper, silver, and lead came out of the West. The steel produced in the West from that molybdenum is used to manufacture other products. Aircraft are made in Southern California, hint, hint. The state's warm climate makes it perfect for testing the airplanes. And down here is the bunch of people putting together an airplane. You can see the body of the plane and the wings that they're working on. Aircraft are also made in Seattle, Washington. You will also find shipbuilding industries on the Pacific coast. Fishing boats, tankers, and battleships are made in Washington and Hawaii using that steel. During the last 20 years, technology industries have started in the West in an area known as Silicon Valley. So technology, we're talking about computers and phones and laptops and tablets. Silicon is a valuable mineral that is used to make computer parts. So the inside of your computer has all of these parts, and that's where the parts are made. There are about 3,000 software companies and many other technology businesses in the area. There are many research centers in the West. These research centers are owned by our government. They test missiles, aircraft, and weapons because we have to make sure that they're working properly. In the Great Basin, there is valuable open space. It's that big, flat, wide, low desert area. Missiles and military weapons are tested there because there's no people, so there's not a risk of someone getting hurt. All right, the next time I see you, we're going to talk about what kinds of things can we visit in the West and our food and people and culture.